So let's say, you know, the SHTF does occur, like a lot of us believe is in our future. You know, the CVS's won't be open. You won't be able to just run down to the doctor and get prescribed something for whatever ails you. Using the skills and the knowledge that you have in your local area of the flora and fauna to be able to solve some of those problems. I think it's more and more important every single day to be as self-reliant, self-sufficient as possible, not only as far as your food goes, being able to produce your own foods, get them locally from people that just live right across the fence from you. I think that that's really, really important, but also for medication purposes. So if you need a pain reliever, if you need something that stops diarrhea, if you need something that will cure a toothache, do you need something like that will stimulate milk production for a mother? All of these things are really, really important. And instead of rushing off to the CVS, which may or may not be here in the future, can we find herbs, medicines that grow naturally, grow wild? Can we find those things near us to solve some of those ailments? These days, it's becoming more and more difficult to trust large organizations, large pharmaceutical companies, and things of that nature because of all of the things that are happening in the world. I have developed a strong distaste and mistrust towards anything related to pharmaceutical companies and large government agencies. That's just me. You can tell me how you feel about it in the comments. Have you given up completely? Do you still trust a little bit? Do you still think that the government is still out to help or not? Do you still think that these pharmaceutical companies that are producing all these medications out there and doctors are prescribing them like crazy, do you still think that they're their intentions are good? Or do you think that it's just all about making money regardless of what it actually does to the people taking these medications? I'd love to hear your opinions. Being able to identify and locate useful edible and medicinal plants is a really good survival skill that you should be working on possessing. It's not an easy one. You could go down a very large rabbit hole if you start going into plants, especially medicinal uses for plants. Edibles is somewhat easier to identify, but when you start looking at medicinals, man, you can study that for a lifetime and still not accomplish all. You still can never learn all the plants in your specific area. It is tough. I think probably the easiest way for you to get started, because does seem overwhelming when you start diving into this, the easiest thing to do is just to go outside in your yard. If you live in the city, doesn't matter. Look at the weeds that are growing next to the curb. Start in your area, pick up a plant. Make sure it's not poisonous, of course, before you start touching it and tearing it apart and that kind of thing, and eating it, of course. Make sure you do your research. But pick the plants that are growing in your area, identify them to the best of your ability with multiple sources, lots of different categories. You look at the leaves, look at the flowers, look at the barks, look at where they grow, look at the climate they're growing in, study all that stuff, and so you can positively identify it, and then start from there. So you pick the plants that are growing in your area. Don't look up some useful plant and then go try to find it. That will take you forever, and it may or may not exist in your area. So look in your yard, pick up a weed, whatever it is, whatever this is, try to identify what that is, and then figure out if it has any useful benefits, such as medicinal or edible uses. So like, for example, this grows in this area right here. This is chokecherry. And yesterday, after we found this plant, we did research on it. We figured out what medicinal and edible benefits it has. Obviously, the berries are going to be edible, but it also serves as a medicine for respiratory issues such as bronchitis and asthma. So that's amazing to be able to just go out and source this stuff. So instead of having to go down to the drugstore or to the doctor because you've got bronchitis, you could possibly solve that ailment with a plant just growing right there next to your home. This is a pretty cool one. This is yellow sweet clover. Grows like a weed wild here, all over the place. May or may not grow in your area, but you could probably find something similar that serves a similar purpose. This one's pretty cool because it will help with blood clots. And as we all know, there's something going around that's causing blood clots. So we need to hopefully discover some way to naturally cure those blood clots, as opposed to going to the pharmaceuticals, which will maybe solve the problem of the blood clots, but then also have 100,000 side effects that come along with it, and then you need to take other medications to solve the problems of those side effects. So these can be used without all of those negative side effects. This one's pretty cool. The Native Americans in this area use the mountain bluebell to help a mother's milk start to flow. So if she wasn't producing enough milk for her baby, this was something that they would use. And most of these things are really, really easily used. You just make tea, basically, and drink the tea. There's some that take a little bit more in-depth processing, but for the most part, a lot of these weeds that you find, all you got to do is make a tea out of it, drink that, and you can get some of the benefits from it. This is a cool looking plant. It's called hound's tongue. It's an invasive species. It's got this really neat looking seed head here that's got a little spiky stem coming out of it. Pretty cool looking plants, invasive species from Africa, Asia, those parts of the world. It looks cool, and it actually has quite a few medicinal purposes, but it also has been reported to cause cancer. So do make sure you're doing your own research and don't just eat any wild plant out there, every weed that you come across, because, you know, I mean, does this actually cause cancer? I don't know. It's reported to cause cancer, so we don't know. But just like a lot of the pharmaceutical medications, if you take them, just because they cure your whatever, they solve your hiccup problem, but they cause cancer, it's probably not really worth taking if that's the case. These are cool. This is a lemonade sumac berry. This is pretty cool. What they do is they produce this almost sweet but really sour juiciness on the outside of their seeds when it's been a dry spell for a while. So the best time to get these off of the plant is if it hasn't rained for a long time. That's when they're going to be the most potent. Put these in water, and just cold water. Don't boil it because it'll make it bitter. But if you put it in cold water, it makes this really nice lemonade drink. You don't really even have to sweeten it. You can if you want to, but there's not really a need to sweeten it. This is spearmint that we found right next to the water. And this spearmint, I think we should combine these two. That'd make a cool drink. But the spearmint mixed in water also makes a really, really nice tea, really, really flavorful. You can just chew on the leaves themselves. Yeah, super sour. The same chemical in there that makes apples sour apples. It's the same thing. I forget the name of it. It doesn't really matter. Just know that it's sour. It tastes like a sour warhead, or almost like a Sour Patch Kid. You can build yourself a wild medical kit. You can build yourself a first aid medical kit on purely stuff in your area. Our ancestors did not have all of the things that we have. They had to get everything from the environment around them, and that is a really admirable skill that I really want to improve upon. Is it the most exciting? Is it the most interesting? This is the sexiest topic out there as far as survival and prepping goes. No, I don't think it is, but I think it is far beyond more useful than all of the fancy tactical gun stuff out there, for example. Now, I understand that this is one of the more difficult of the survival skills. You can learn how to rub two sticks together fairly quick with good instruction and good materials around you. But this takes some in-depth knowledge and takes some real time to study these things. And having somebody around you in your local area that can help you identify a lot of these plants to get you started, I think is key. But it will not, having somebody that's knowledgeable going to a plant class, whatever, let's say you went to a plant class for the weekend and they taught you 50 different things in your area. It will be absolutely useless if you don't go out afterwards and apply it, because you will forget all of it. You might be able to maybe identify a couple of those plants afterwards, but you won't really understand them. You won't really be able to identify them in more than one season perhaps, and you won't remember all the uses. You need to go out there and get your hands dirty and really invest some time in this, and it will help you remember what they are used for. Take notes, write this stuff down on actual paper. It will help you remember what these things can be used for, and it's endless. I mean, you could study this, like I said before in the beginning of this video, you could study this stuff forever, your whole life, and still never accomplish everything. But anyway, I really want to know what you guys think about this. Again, like I said in the beginning of the video, tell me what you think about the pharmaceutical companies and the large government agencies that are out there. Do you trust them at all anymore? Have you given up hope that there's still a few good ones out there, or are they just out to make money and don't care about us at all? I don't know, but let me know in the comments what you think about that. Let me know what you've done in your area. Let's talk about how you've spent your time learning the wild edibles and medicinals in your area. Love to see you in the comments on that. I'll make sure I'm there so I can respond. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Can't wait to see you on the next one. So let's say you do have to flee your city, your urban area, your neighborhood, wherever you live, because of chaos that's going on, and you've got to escape to somewhere else. even though you've spent all your time perhaps learning the medicinals and edibles in your area, that doesn't necessarily mean that they won't exist somewhere else. A lot of these plants, some of the ones that I've identified here, grow in a lot of areas. Like, let's take mullein, for example. Mullein grows all over the place. It grows at my house in Georgia, and it grows out west here in Utah. It's all over the place. So you can find similar plants in all kinds of different areas.